Here is Danny, and today we take a look at the Battlefield 5 Iceberg, posted on Reddit by that boy Lime, and together with him we are fixing the iceberg up a bit, adding some new things and merging a few others that are double. People on Reddit asked what a lot of these things meant and also asked for a dedicated video. So here I am with that video, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know about some things either. But yeah, this is gonna be a bit long video, so let's start. The first layer. Body dragging, a feature announced at launch but scrapped for gameplay reasons. Also, the trolling potential would be huge, just throwing dead players off the map. The review trailer. Yeah, on a technical level it was good, but it confused and made people angry. Females, unrealistic cosmetics, we don't do that here in Battlefield. Holiday themed skins, see above. Kunter, be praised, a German soldier with a very worn out look. The first time to kill changes. A blanket server change to lower the damage of everything minus shotguns. So shotguns were for a short time really OP, because the rest took like 5 to 10 bullets to kill. Crash landings, another scrapped feature. Scrapped due to time constraints. Time to kill 2.0. DICE saw the feedback for the first time to kill changes and were like, yeah, let's do it again, but make it even worse. To the point where the FG42 needed 12 bullets to kill on a 20 round magazine. Temporal, our favorite file digger, he kept hope alive for Battlefield 5. Unreleased weapons and vehicles. Holy shit, there is so many. From the Bishop to the Martyr 3, of which we even got UI icons. The Battlefield cosmetic subreddit. A bit of a meme. The people who hated the look of Battlefield 5 went on to make their own more realistic combinations. On Gaming Circle Jerk they got called weirdos for wanting to cosplay as Nazis. The scrapped 5v5 mode. A mode by DICE LA named Incursions. It featured multiple maps including cascades. Some of the maps that were made for the mode got added to normal Battlefield 5 like Elmire Encampment, Lofoten Island and Provence. It also had its own weapons and gadgets, of which some made their way into Battlefield 5 with the last patch. War in the Pacific. The time where the public opinion of the game started shifting from bad to pretty decent. Airborne, it still exists, even though it is only available in Grand Operations. Wake Island. A remake of the classic Battlefield map, but it has a different layout and was far bigger than before. The Backlash. From developers making really silly comments like Alan Kurtz about his daughter, to someone from EA saying don't like it, don't buy it. Let's say the game had a bit of a PR problem. Firestorm. It's Royale, said Lars Gustafsson on stage. Came out too late, paid and was doomed to fail, even though it was pretty fun to be honest. The Reveal Trader Lady. A woman in World War II, with a World War II era prosthetic. That is highly illegal. The V1, a big bomb you can call in for 40,000 squad points. The audio was recorded with a real pulse jet engine. The Snowman. On Narvik and Wake Island you can make a snowman. No idea how he survives on Wake Island though. The Garand Thump. When reloading the M1 Garand, there is a 3% chance of your finger getting stuck in a gun. Ouch. That was the first part of the iceberg, the sky. Now we go down a little bit. The finger gun easter egg, which is an easter egg on some of the base maps. There is a shovel box that can turn green. If it does, follow it where it's pointing and you can pick up the finger gun. You shoot people with your fingers, make pew pew noises, and reloading is ouch, like we are in Far Cry.
Objective dog is now ours, soldier.
The Ares Gnome. On Ares there's a gnome. If you break it, he will follow you around and will be super creepy. You can rebuild the original gnome in order to stop that from happening. The Tractor. Started off as a normal breakable asset, but someone from DICE leaked that we might be able to drive it in Firestorm, which turned out was true. Criterion wasn't too happy with DICE breaking the news though. But now you can also drive it around on Marita and the Province map. Player archetypes, subclasses within classes that gave different perks. They got scrapped though and replaced with combat roles. Road to Battlefield 5. Events in Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 4 that could net you some rewards like a 1911 skin. Misaki, the most loved and most hated elite in the game. Free for all players of the Season 5 Tides of War. She is a Japanese girl who can be used on any map, including the European theater. Tank body customization, coming soon. And that soon took almost a year. And what we got were a few presets and not much customization. We did get a coming soon tank skin though. The Crab Rave. On Wake Island there is an easter egg that results in a banger Battlefield rendition of the Crab Rave song. There's also, of course, dancing crabs. The Christmas gifts. DICE played for Santa and gave out the ribeye roll. But in classic DICE fashion, they fucked it up and gave it out a little bit too early. The Devastation Katana. In a big church there is a canister. If you shoot it, a katana will drop on the floor that you can of course use to kill people. The Battlefield 5 Enigma. A pre-release cipher easter egg. As promotion of the game that could net you some prizes. The chat filter. Sure, it's okay not being able to say racist stuff, but it also blocked normal sentences like CPU names or white man. That of course was all the surface level stuff. Time to go underwater for tier 3. Starting off with the scrapped Pacific Ocean map. A bogus rumor by the Battlefield Cosmetics sub. This topic will come up more often. Sulis, an easter egg teased for Firestorm. Cans, the Sulis logo inside the game on machines and loot boxes on metal. They even had Mark Strong to ask what the hell Sulis was.
Sulis. Is it S-U-L-I-S? Does it stand for something? Okay, that's top secret. Sulis. Yeah.
And since the development of Firestorm stopped, it never got explained. The Tides of War, the free battle pass system of Battlefield 5. 40 tiers with stuff to be earned by everyone, including the earlier mentioned Misaki. Lofoten Islands, part of the 5v5 game mode, first of the maps to be added to the game and also the only one which isn't available for 64 player conquest. The Tower of Babel easter egg. Accidentally activated on the firing range in June of 2019 by me, Bronzex and some other friends. But it was deactivated because it was not finished yet. It got eventually re-added and solved by a French team in late November 2020. You could solve it by doing puzzles and using the game's building mechanics to build stairs into the sky. The Liberator pistol, the worst gun in the game. And unlike the Colibri pistol, it didn't even do extra headshot damage. The Pacific Storm Sea Life. There's alligators, fish, stingrays and other animals. But there's also a shark that drags you underwater and bites you when you swim near it. The Red Beret hat. So for a long time the only way to get a Red Beret was in combination with a gas mask. No idea what DICE's fetish is with gas masks, but basically everything had it. Eventually it got added normally though. The visibility changes. For a long time, Battlefield 5 was a true eye test with awful visibility. DICE has done a few things to change it. A controversial change was adding the weird haze filter over the game. That did not work and made it uglier at the same time. They eventually added ring lighting to the character models. The Company, the Create a Soldier mode where all the customization was handled. Almighty Deck, a leaker who had Battlefield 1 completely right before its announcement. Then he sold fake Battlefield 5 info to a guy named Draxton who fell flat on his face. And basically nothing he said was correct. Night maps. There were rumors about night maps coming to the game. And beyond a few darker settings for some modes, like in Operations, nothing really came out of it. It didn't help that DICE added an infrared gun to the game as well. The Fall of Europe chapter, a scrapped or renamed chapter to show off the Tides of War system before launch, featuring the Bren MG and the Madsen MG, of which the last one only got released in October 2019, so pretty late after the game's release. You got to love that drip feeding. The Narvik whale. On Narvik there's a whale swimming around. Players got angry that DICE spent their time on making a whale easter egg, but not on a plane that only got used in one mode on a few maps. The Firestorm Dome. Only one of the few map updates that Firestorm got, together with the Forest of Blue Flowers and the Watchtowers. Elites. Paid soldier skins that could not be edited, had their own backstory and voice lines, and they could seen as the prequel to the Battlefield 2042 specialists. The Phantom of the Opera. One of those specialists, he has a World War I prosthetic on his face, which people see as a Phantom of the Opera mask and thus unrealistic. He also got renamed because his original name, Wilhelm Frank, was a actual resistance hero, so it would be weird for him to be the bad guy. Concept art. There is tons of concept art for unexplored places like Italy. Advanced movement. The evolution of movement in the Battlefield community. From vaulting to crouch running, or to go prone on your back. No tech. The reason why we didn't have double XP events is, and I quote a community manager from DICE, we don't have the tech for it. That is also the reason I make the DICE has found the tech jokes if Battlefield 2042 has a double XP event. Time for another layer of the iceberg. It is getting cold down here. The Battlefield 5 launch party. Oh boy. DICE mocked the angry player base by quoting some negative things and putting them on a big screen at the launch party. With quotes like "feminism ruins everything" and "femnazis are trying to rewrite history" or "Genderfield 5. They also switched the hashtag #NotMyBattlefield to everyone's Battlefield. First Ranger 18, a Reddit user with a ton of crackpot IDs and tons of awful suggestions. And rumors, including some map rumors like Snow Panzerstorm. He has removed his Reddit account, however. The campaign camera. In the single player you can find a war photographer camera, but only if when you are not connected to the internet, since it is server-side disabled. You could use it to take first-person pictures with different filters and the photos would be saved to your PC. It was also supposed to be in multiplayer. The Tirpitz, the big ship outside of Lofoten Island, the sister battleship to the Bismarck. RTX, it just works, as the Nvidia boss once said, bringing reflections to class and other surfaces. The trailer for it also showed off Rotterdam for the first time. Co-op mode, Trevor Noah's favorite Battlefield 1 mode.
I heard you guys say that co-op is back, and that's one of my favorite aspects of Battlefield 1. Laws, can you tell me more about that mode?
Was supposed to be a cool, unique mode turned into a simple PvE mode on existing maps. The Battlefield 5 prologue on a single map. Do you remember the prologue for the single player? Going from Norway to Africa to the sky and the Netherlands? Well, it was all on the same map because it was playable while the rest of the game was still downloading and installing, and they didn't want any loading. It all had to be put on the same level, meaning you get teleported across the world. I even got a dedicated video on it on my channel. The Americans replacing the Brits on some maps. Like on Panzerstorm, where the map launched as England versus Germany, but midway the game's life cycle it went to the American team. DICE even added some new vehicles for the Americans to balance it out. MMGs, big machine guns that could only aim down sight when using the bipod. A mechanic some realistic games use, and that does not fit into a fast-paced game like Battlefield. The practice range. A thing that was promised and came way later. There's also an Easter egg on it. The Panzerstorm changes, the first map DICE ever did a rework on, adding new trenches, new buildings and other things, making the player less exposed when moving around the map. Bugs and issues. It can't be a DICE game without its fair share of problems. Grind and Fortress. One is a very popular mode, the other one is basically forgotten. Grind was 64 players on a tiny part of the map, for example the bridge on Twisted Steel or Narvik. DICE also added extra walkways under it. There was also one on Devastation with extra walkways around the church. It was pretty popular, and they also even fixed the Twisted Steel bridge, where in a normal multiplayer it was broken. Fortress, however, was more a King of the Hill style mode, where attackers had to capture the fortress of Mada, and it wasn't very fun. Also, for some reason they allowed jets to just bomb everything, and it got only activated twice in the playlists, and then never to be seen again. Tiny red houses. On some maps you can find little red houses like on Aras and Iwo Jima. They are the signature of the level designer. You can also find them on Rupture, by the way. Final Stand, a rare game mode that only comes when grand operations and in very specific moments. In all my time I have played it only once. DICE only skins. Just like every other Battlefield game, there are special DICE items. In Battlefield 5 they are exclusive dark wooden variations of the guns. Let's go even deeper to tier 5. Devastation Bombing Run. On the map Devastation there is a rare event where flares drop from the skies and bombs get dropped inside the playable area. You can actually get killed by them if you're low enough health. Suppressed campaign weapons. There's a good amount of guns in the single player campaign that got a suppressor that did not make its way into the multiplayer. A skiing feature, a thing from the single player campaign in Norway. Some players wanted to see it in multiplayer, but it never got third person animations, only first person, so it could never make it in without that. 7 Flag Mercury. In just one single shot of the Mercury trailer, a 7 flag layout shows up, never to be seen again. Multi-crew vehicles. In Firestorm you can find tanks that can only be used by multiple people, one driver and a gunner with a big cannon. Some people wanted this in normal Battlefield 5 too. The El Sundan Conquest Delay, or better said El Sundan. A very rare issue that only happened on PlayStation made the Conquest version of the map to be delayed for all platforms by multiple mods. Nordlis Real Life Inspiration. The heavy water facility and all are real life places, but the real sabotage of the hydroelectric power plant was done by the British Special Forces and not by a girl from Norway. Old uniforms and colors. The launch uniforms didn't have the right shade of brown or grey, and they didn't have the correct form. DICE eventually added the more realistic cosmetics for the soldiers. The Predator Easter egg. On the jungle map there's a very rare chance of finding green blood on some leaves. If you stood there you could hear the Predator make his famous noises. There was a very small chance for it to spawn. The Firestorm helicopter, the Colibri helicopter, a real-life World War II helicopter, sadly never made its way into normal Battlefield 5. Weird cosmetic descriptions. Some skins like Baron von Zorn got a cosmetic description while others didn't, and they were weird. The Sturmgewehr, where the automatic version is named the Stuurgewehr 1.5, but the semi-auto one only Gewehr 1.5. Awakening the Giant. On the roadmap for Battlefield 5, the 5th chapter was named Awakening the Giant, but we all know it is called War in the Pacific when it got released. Possibly named this way to hide a Pacific theater chapter. The Giant was probably the American army who got awoken after Japan attacked. Give Chow Chat. The Chow Chat is a French weapon that was available in the single player and co-op on Rotterdam. It took more than a year for it to come to multiplayer, even though it did get changes over time within the files. Another one of those stories is the Shotgun Shotgun. That was in pre-launch footage, but that took damn long too. Pistol skins. Yeah, that would have been an option to put skins on your 1911 for example, but that was all scrapped sadly. The Bangalore. There's an unused Bangalore mine in the files. one of the many things that never made it in, model, animations and all. Let's dive even deeper into part 6. Mod support. With the help of Frosty, we can now add our own game assets like anime-made Masaki, Among Us or other things. Nighttime Solomon, another crackpot theory, probably by Fire Ranger 18. Snow Panzerstorm, same. Community games. Players wanted to host their own server since launch and it took DICE like a year to actually add it. Then it took even longer for decent tools to come out. It was free to use though, which was nice. Pre-order weapons in Battlefield 1. If you pre-ordered Battlefield 5 you could get some good weapons in Battlefield 1 like the BAR M1918A2, the M1919 SMG and for example the most elegant M38. Funny because we never got the Russians. Anti-tank rifles. DICE added a entirely new class to the game, the anti-tank rifle like the Boys AT or the Panzerbusche. And while it was an anti-tank rifle, it was used more as a one-shot kill sniper that needed a bipod. The Fliegerfaust, a failed experiment in real life, but in-game a pilot's worst nightmare. Edward Touch, the name of the mythical pirate Blackbeard that was written on the side of the Calliope. Tutorial. Added during the game's lifecycle, Mr. Battlefield takes you on a tour of the battlefield and teaches you the mechanics of the game. Thanks, Lars Gustafsson.
In this training exercise, we will cover capturing objectives and how to play the Conquest game mode.
Scrapped beta music. During the beta there was tons of different music that we never got in retail sadly. Firestorm cans. Across the hangar of Firestorm there's a bunch of cans scattered that you can shoot. Nothing happens though, but we always assumed it was part of the Sulis Easter egg. Let's go deeper into layer 7. Now it's getting fun. The Suicide Gun. A scrapped revolver where the barrel faces you instead of the enemy. If you hipfire, you can kill people behind you. If you aim down sights, you dome yourself. The Red Devil weapons. A deluxe bonus that said you'd get 20 airlifts. Those airlifts were instead of full guns, small pieces like 5 parts for the KE-7, which counted as 5 airlifts. It felt like a total scam. The unresolved phone Easter egg. On random spawns in the Battlefield 5 maps, you can find a telephone. If you answer it, you hear a German yelling "Hello?" What to do with it, still no ID. The Narvik skier. On Narvik, you can find a flat image of a skier flying through the forests. Firestorm is a result of German weather technology. Remember the Sulis stations? A theory is that those caused the firestorm, because at some point of them you see a flaming mini circle around them. Rob was here. On the side of Hamada you can see the text "Rob is here", a tribute to ex-art director Robert Runesen. You can also see a parasol with "I love Dr. Rob" outside. And in Arras inside the church you can find little photographs of Rob himself with little hearts. Solomon Islands and Iwo Jima bombings and AI. To give the map more life, DICE added events happening outside of the map. Ares has a bunch of tanks out of bounds too. Hidden teddy bears in the single player and multiplayer. You can find teddy bears holding fake wooden guns, a recurring Easter egg since Battlefield 2. Periscope kills. Just like in Battlefield 1, you can lie down in someone's butt and kill a person with a periscope. Time for layer 8. We are almost done. Soviet equipment. There's multiple unreleased Russian weapons like the LED MG, a gun you could even use in the test range for a little bit. It also was the first and only LMG, besides the Lewis gun, that you could aim down sights while not being bipoded. There is a supposed unreleased Junker 52 model in the files. It was supposed to be meant for airborne. On the maps there is frags for unreleased vehicles like the Hummel, Bishop or Grill. Milsim Hitler. The leader of a Milsim will held a speech in the style of Adolf Hitler, talking about how other Milsim groups are a shame for the Milsim community. Just listen to a select few clips.
Months I've had to tolerate a group of people that call themselves Milsims. They call themselves Milsims, but they are who have now and who have always been unwelcome, unwanted, and they are everywhere. These people are and have always been inferior to those that reside in our community. They lie and preach hate. all whilst rotting at the core of what Milsim is. These invaders of our once pure, united community have turned it into a cesspool of toxicity and inaccuracy.
The legendary M. After the summer update, an M would sometimes be shown in the UI, which was part of a weapons UI. In good Battlefield community fashion, it became a meme. Praise M. Leftover Battlefield 1 guns. There are tons of unreleased weapons in the Battlefield 5 files, like the Frommerstop Auto and others. Panzerfaust, aiming down sight in OVA. Back in the pre-release version of Battlefield, you could properly aim down sight with the Panzerfaust, instead of the zooming in we got now. Sadly, it got changed and I don't know why. The scalar weapon on Solomon Islands. You can trigger the scalar weapon from Bad Company 2's intro. Full guide on it on my channel, of course. The Battlefield Bad Company 2 Easter egg on the test range. Sometimes the Bad Company 2 smiley pops up on one of the target dummies. If you shoot it, it will give a yellow puff of smoke, and it is a pretty rare event. And now for the deepest layer, Layer 9. The Alan Kurtz Battlefield 5 rant. Alan Kurtz was the lead designer at DICE. He had some interesting things, like females got added because his daughter asked so. He also hoped Battlefield 2042 would fail because he did not work on it. He was the guy behind the 2 awful time to kill changes nobody liked. And he went on a rant against me, DANNYonPC, saying I'm the cancer of the Battlefield and never giving feedback. Funny, since he often DM'd me asking for feedback. Let's say me and a bunch of others, including DICE employees, are happy that he's gone. Fun fact, if you look at the Battlefield Bad Company 2 cover, his name is on the left side on a helicopter. Okinawa map theory. For a bundle, DICE made a custom background. Reddit assumed it was a picture of the new map, Devastation Giant Dinosaur. Outside of the map of Devastation you can find a giant dinosaur paw print, but no dino inside. Nordlis nuclear whale. If you collect a bunch of coins in order, inside the Nordlis mission, an explosive whale falls out of the sky. This is probably a reference to A Hitchhiker's Guide Through the Galaxy. Twisted Steel Shark. Another Nicholas Astrand classic with a random chance of spawning in the waters of Twisted Steel. Firestorm ambient storm audio. Sometimes, if you listen well, you can hear babies crying and other not so nice noises. Creepy. The old Steve Fisher intro. Steve released too early in good DICE fashion and had a different animation where he was brushing off his shoulders or touching his sunglasses. Or brushing up his hair. Compare that to Steve Fisher's current animations where he puts on his sunglasses or puts them a little bit lower. And gives everyone a stern look like he is a librarian. Door bash sound effect. When you run through doors you sometimes hear a cat. This is also the same for Battlefield 2042 and Battlefield 1. Comeback mechanics. Before I made a video on it and pressured DICE to change it, the losing team would capture flags a lot quicker and also had more vehicles available. Body armor. DICE initially wanted to add body armor to assault players that you could select like Firestorm armor. Luckily they did not add it. There was a armor crate that assaults could throw though. The door on Devastation. On the Devastation Cathedral there's a staircase with a door that you can't open. It is the same door as the Isolement door from Battlefield 1 Force the Foe. We never managed to open it. The Battlefield 5 leak that actually turned out to be real but nobody believed. At some point someone shared a work in progress load screen of the game. But nobody believed the person that it was real. Well, that was the entire Iceberg. Did you know them all? Did we miss any? Let me know down in the comments. But hey, that is all I got for now. Subscribe for more. This was Danny and I see you on the Battlefield.